Welcome to the Wellness on Tap podcast with your host, Dr. Debs Eastwood.
No, all the cravings are gone now.
Can't say I've been craving foam for a while.
No, that would be a weird one, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hadn't actually thought about that, but...
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And are you still taking your Pretandem?
Yeah.
Because she says it helps. When she's like, I see her post or say something about it and I remind her, she's like, oh, I haven't taken it, funnily enough, a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, I've found that since being on the GLP-1, because you can't eat for half an hour...
You forget it.
I'm sometimes forgetting.
So do I. I've started taking mine in the evening, actually, or when I eat my first meal because I intermittent fast and I don't eat till later.
Yeah. And that's what I've been doing because I knock mine back with some collagen as well. It's like, nope, can't do that. Can't have any calories.
Yeah. So how do you start this off normally? Do you
just... We've probably started already. We just go for it. We're just chatting. We're just chatting. We're just chilling.
So does Matt not tell you when you're ready?
No. Oh, no. Mark has a lot of input on this. Yeah. This podcast has an awful lot to do with him. But, at the end of the day, it's my podcast.
Yeah.
He just gets the best out of it for me.
Yeah, fab.
I know, and gives me the input that I need, which sometimes is more than others.
Well, it's so helpful to have somebody else doing that stuff for you. Then you don't have to worry about all the technical and editing.
Oh, please.
And
I wouldn't have time to do that. Yeah. I wouldn't have had time to do it. So, I mean, because the GLP-1 with me, that's why sometimes now I'm forgetting the Pretandem.
Yeah.
But while I've been at home, it's not mattered so much.
Yeah.
Because, you go up to the bathroom, because I keep it in the bathroom cabinet, because I used to do it first thing in the morning, collagen, to knock down the Pretandem.
Yeah.
And then I'd go and make myself a cup of tea, get my bag ready for work.
Yeah.
And then come back up and clean my teeth and go to work.
Yeah.
But now that cycle's a bit disrupted.
Yeah.
And I'm taking my GLP-1 instead when I wake up. If I'm going then to work and I forget to pick it up and take it with me,
then it doesn't matter if you take it later on in the day.
No,
it's fine as long as you eat it with food.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah.
Some people actually prefer to take it in the evening. I have one friend who's got like fibromyalgia. She's in Holland, and she says when she takes it at night, she feels better when she wakes up in the morning.
How interesting.
Yeah,
I could try that then, couldn't I? That's a good tip.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. So it's interesting really because I wanted to talk a lot today about these particular products with you because you're the expert. Mm-hmm. I am learning.
I hate it when people say that.
No, well, you've had many more years working with these products than I have.
It's worse when I go to a meeting and they say, this is our leader. I'm like, no, please don't say that. I'm not.
Well, okay.
Sounds like Star Trek or something.
Oh, no. Sometimes it feels wrong, doesn't it? You have to pick the right words. But it's like, you've known about these products a lot longer than me.
Yeah.
You've been in this particular business a lot longer than I have.
Yeah.
And even though I'm building up my knowledge and my expertise, I am still learning.
Yeah, it takes a while.
I mean, you went round recently and did a whole series of talks, didn't you?
Yeah.
Was it primarily in Yorkshire or was it all over the country?
No, we went all over the UK, Scotland, Holland, Ireland, yeah.
And this was all about
GLP-1. Yeah.
We said that together, look.
Yeah, so I'm actually still recovering from that roadshow, to be honest. And it's funny because when I started my business, that's all I did all the time. But because the business is built to a certain level, I don't do that amount of traveling anymore.
Yeah.
But so it was a little blast from the past of going all over the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's dig in then. Let's find out.
Yeah.
What is this GLP-1 and why did that promote you to go on another road trip?
So obviously there's some company history with that, but there's also some personal history with it as well.
We'll go into both, yeah.
So some people know of GLP-1 because they associate a GLP-1 antagonist, which is what these weight loss injections are. Some people have no idea that the weight loss injections are a GLP-1 antagonist. They just know that they're a weight loss injection.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have heard that phrase or term, and usually the reason is because they've heard of this GLP-1 antagonist.
So GLP-1 is?
GLP-1 is glucagon-like peptide.
Number one.
Yeah. And it's a hormone that is naturally found within your body. So it's something that your body already has. And all of the products that we work with, they work by activating something in your body that you either used to produce much earlier in life, but you no longer do, or a gene that is causing the aging process and we can down-regulate it. So we're either activating genes to come back on and be more effective, or down-regulating genes that cause a negative impact to be a little bit quieter. So GLP-1 is a hormone that is already found in the body. But when you're young and when you're healthy and everything's working in the right way as it should, it's very effective at suppressing appetite, making sure your appetite control center is working the way it should, which probably over half of the population it isn't. But also, as you age, that hormone, like everything else, declines. It can be affected by your lifestyle, stress, certain medications, your diet can all lead to this GLP-1 hormone not being as effective as it should. So it has multiple health benefits. So the main thing that we know it as and what it's been made most known as is because it is the connection between your gut and your brain.
Massive connection there.
It is the
there?
messenger that goes between the gut and the brain. So it's the one that says, hey, you're eating now. Hey, you should stop eating now. Hey, you've consumed enough. And if that's not working correctly, it leads to overeating and false hunger. And it's basically what they call hunger noise. GLP-1 is like the monitor and the balancer of that. So that is a huge role that it plays. It also regulates the speed at what food moves through your digestive system. So it can slow down that process so that you can absorb more nutrients out of your food and you feel fuller for longer. And then the other one that has multiple, we'd be here for a very long time discussing them all, but one of the other major ones is it's balances the blood sugar levels in your body, which is ultimately important because what a lot of people don't understand and realize is your blood sugar is like your body's clock. And if you balance your blood sugars, you balance everything else. So your hormones and everything else balance around that. So when it comes to weight loss, it's incredibly important. GLP-1 is incredibly important that it's functioning and working efficiently. There's a lot of research now going into the effects of GLP-1 on the reward centers in your brain. So reward centers would be like your dopamine receptors and addiction and all of those things that are associated with that. And as we know, today food is being manufactured to be addictive, and food addiction and emotional eating is a very, 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 very real thing. Most people probably wouldn't want to admit to it, but I think a lot of people would to themselves say, yeah, actually, that's true. And so that's very interesting because what we've seen with people that have been activating their GLP-1, and we can get on to how that works, is things like somebody who would buy a bottle of wine, like myself maybe on a Friday night. I'm not a massive drinker. I don't go out a lot. But on a Friday, I would buy a bottle of wine and had a couple of glasses of wine like over the weekend. I'd find myself in the store thinking, oh, it's Friday, I should get some wine. I don't really want any wine. And we've seen that, for example, in several people that have all said, I just don't want a drink. I'm not drinking the wine in the evening like I would normally do. So it's really interesting. And if we can help people with that food addiction problem, that will be a massive part of it.
Won't it?
So basically, if you can put your GLP-1 in balance and in the right amount and in the right environment so it can function correctly, i.e. in your gut, for one, you can really balance your blood sugar levels, but you can also put yourself back in control of your relationship with food.
Massive.
So a lot of people's relationship with food is out of control. They're not in control. Their biology is. And the reason that they feel the way they do about food, or they're eating even though they don't want to because they want to lose weight, but they can't, or how much they try, their willpower just can't get them there, is there's a biological reason for that, and GLP-1 plays a massive role. So in today's society where we're at, it's a huge thing. And so that's why these injections have become wildly popular. But at the same time, we all know that they're coming with a lot of risks.
Yeah, let's dwell on that for a moment, because
as much as we can without me getting in trouble.
Well, this is my podcast and we can say what we like. We're allowed to have opinions.
Yeah.
But this GLP-1 that the company we're talking about provide is completely different, because it's not GLP-1.
Yeah. So the injections aren't GLP-1 either. So what happens is this MB system, basically, that we've just launched. It launched in the US in October, and it's just launched here in Europe end of April. So just a couple of months, not even a month ago yet, officially. We've had people trialing it, and obviously we've had people using it in the US. So, and the studies and the science is all there, so we already know what happens with it. So basically what that does is, when you don't take GLP-1, I mean, you can't take GLP-1 hormone. Where would we get it from? You know, harvesting and farming it would be questionable.
Yeah, that's rather unethical to say the least, isn't it? Yeah.
So you can't take GLP-1 hormone, because you'd have to take it from humans to be able to do that. And even if you did get that far, how would they store it, preserve it, how it work in your body? Would your body metabolize it? Like, there's all this stuff around it. So what happens is, when you take this, it's a two-prong approach. It is working with the gene that produces your GLP-1 hormone to make sure that you can produce more. So it's upregulating. And the last study that we've just done has shown that it's actually proven to increase your natural GLP-1 hormone by 220%.
Oh, wow. So that's better than previous studies then, isn't it?
Yeah. So initially it came up about 140%, but the most recent study showed 220% increase in GLP-1 production.
That's a remarkable increase.
We affect it two ways: directly by addressing the gene and upregulating that gene so that more GLP-1 is produced. But then GLP-1 needs receptor sites to communicate with. And the majority of those receptor sites are in the gut and the brain, obviously, because it's the communication between the two. Most people's gut is not in the best environment because of the lifestyle and diets and stress and everything else that we eat, and the oils and all types of things that are going on there. There's inflammatory issues in the gut often. The microbiome is not correct. You know, the gut flora's off. And so the second part of the system, it encourages the gut to be an environment where the GLP-1 receptors are going to live and thrive. So we stimulate the production, and then we also make sure that we're increasing receptor sites of the GLP-1 so that it can, when it's produced, function correctly.
Yeah.
So it's working both sides. The third thing that we do is we downregulate the gene that is responsible for the aging of your GLP-1 hormone. So it's a three-prong approach, really.
How on earth does the product do that? Has it got some kind of magic thing in it, or what?
No, it's all natural ingredients. So there's nothing in there that you couldn't consume But obviously the science has led it to be concentrated in certain amounts. So there's some resistant fiber in there. There's some certain extracts from plants, and that's all it is. It's literally just plant extract and epigenetics. So it's just looking at different chemical compounds found in plants and foods that trigger these responses in the body. Yeah. Yeah.
So an absolute mixture of science and natural components.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is the GLP-1 now, obviously the main thing and the focus for a lot of people is the weight loss, but it's a health activator all on its own. The weight loss is great, but on its own, activating GLP-1 has multiple health benefits. The effects on your brain, there's a lot of now research showing that GLP-1 helps with preventing neurodegenerative diseases. So
that's
the weight
massive
loss
in
is
itself,
just one
isn't
thing.
it?
And then the people that we've seen using it and taking it, it's really interesting because 100% of the people who did lose weight using it over a 12-week period, not one of them lost any muscle mass.
That's important, especially as you get older. Important at any time, but especially when you get older.
Well, it's already on the decline anyway. You need it for your metabolism. You need, especially women, after going through menopause, it's vitally important. But when you take these synthetic GLP-1 injections that everybody's taking, a lot of the science, and especially one that was quite a significant study, showed that of the weight you lose on them, 40% of that weight loss is muscle mass. So if you lose 3 stone using these artificial GLP-1 antagonists, that just under a stone of that is going to be muscle mass, not fat.
That's diabolical because we need our muscle mass.
And, that's aging, it's weakening. It then has other implications, osteoporosis, all these other things that come along with muscle emaciation is, it's really interesting. But the health risks of those, I think we're yet to see. I've got to be sensible because I represent our company as well in how much we say about that. But I think, there's studies coming up saying that people are more at risk to certain cancers after they've been on them. There was somebody I know recently who had to go to the liver or the kidney department at the hospital. I don't even know. It's not is it the renal unit?
Renal
the kidneys?
for kidney, yeah.
And she was having a real go at how long she'd had to wait to get an appointment. And what her consultant said, they've had to increase number of staff because of the amount of liver and kidney problems that they're seeing as a result of this influx of these. Yeah,
I mean, that's real, isn't it? When it affects feet on the ground, people's jobs.
Yeah.
My goodness, it's like...
And it's like the number
crazy
of cesarean
because
every
sections.
week I hear new people that are taking them, using them. And I think a lot of people are happy to, they're happy to ignore the health risks at the thought of being slim. Isn't that crazy? That's how desperate people are to lose weight. That is how difficult it is that people are willing to hear all of these things that could happen, that losing vision and POTS has been another thing that's been thrown in the mix just to be slim. So what's it going to say on my tombstone? Well, at least I was skinny.
You're not wrong though, and a lot of that comes from social media pressure and that, doesn't it? This so-called, if you're not slim, then you're not perfect, you're not accepted. I mean, what a load of BS is that? But it's there, isn't it? It's another pressure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny that, because I was just thinking of the last couple of days in our industry of network marketing, I'm not your typical female leader in the industry, because a lot of them look like high-powered, women that have got their hair done and their makeup on, and they're like with all the current trends. And I spend, as a top 1% in the industry leader, I spend half my time in lycra and riding clothes picking up after my horse. So I'm not the typical person in my industry anyway.
I really like that, Lisa. I think that keeps you literally grounded.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I mean, I was pulled into it for a little bit, and there's a lot of hype and this false glamour almost about it that I just was like, was never for me.
No, you're not buying into that.
I'm from Yorkshire, for goodness sake. Like.
Absolutely. We stick together as Yorkshire lasses. We've got our
what you
grit.
see,
Yeah, exactly. So you spend a lot of time on the horse as well. I'm just digressing for a little bit now because you dropped that little gem in. So you're a horse person.
Well, it's funny because this business is what got me into the horse, funnily enough. Well, got me back into the horse. So how I got into doing what I do, basically, is when I started out and I left school, I had no idea what I was wanting to do, and I fell into being a beauty therapist. In fact, some of the best decisions I've made in life, when I look back, are the ones that I fell into that were not planned or
gut instinct.
Yeah, they're just things that happened, and I took that path, and that's the way it worked out. So I've always worked in health my entire life, funnily enough. I think it was still health, actually. Yeah. So I think my entire life since leaving school, I've worked in and around the health industry in some capacity. And so I went and did beauty therapy, and then I worked on cruise liners for 7 years and I worked my way up. I was managing like these huge modern day spas on board the cruise liners.
Okay, that's where the health bit comes in, yeah.
Yeah, and well, as I started out doing treatments myself, and I did, then I extended it into more therapy and treatment and aromatherapy and more massage skills and things like that. And I ended up managing these big, huge modern day spas. I went to the Bahamas, to the Atlantis Day Spa there. I used to work in Manhattan in a big spa on 56th Street, East 56, called the Greenhouse Day Spa. It's not there anymore, but yeah. And then I came home, and I had 2 young children then at the time. So that must have been 2003, I think, something like that. And I moved away from the spa industry because, having young kids, the spa industry had gone from being a 9 in the morning till 9 at night, 7 days a week industry. And as a mum with kids,
that's not going to work,
who can do those shifts? And hats off to anybody who does, because I know how difficult that actually is. And then I separated with my first husband, and I was a single mum. So I was having a full-blown career and raising 2 small young children at the same time on my own. No. So I went into the beauty industry, but more on the business side. I did like business development and training, and I worked for a lot of the companies in the industry, and I really went down the more skincare, aesthetic route. And after a while, I got kind of tired of working for very small family-run companies where I was having to move every 2 years for progression, either of what I was doing or to be able to get a pay increase, I'd have to find a new job because there was no progression where I was. So in the end, I ended up actually in pharmaceutical sales. Yeah, I ended up as a pharma rep. I was remarried. And I did that for another, 6 or 7 years, I think. I worked in medical nutrition. So I worked in a lot around allergy. But even when I was in skincare, I didn't just work on skincare. We looked at the holistic approach. So we looked at like food intolerances and how the hormones affect food intolerances and skin allergies in cycles, and acne and
eczema, psoriasis, all those.
Yeah, like it's what you see on the skin is a symptom of something coming from inside. And if you're just treating the skin, you'll never solve the problem. So I was always interested in what was going on in the body and how do we really get a good result. So anyway, I ended up in pharma, and that was nutrition. I ended up in allergy, actually, doing that. And it's weird, isn't it? And Steve Jobs says, you never get to connect the dots forward, you only get to connect them back. But when I look back over my career, everything I did lined me up for what I do now. It's crazy, isn't it? So I got remarried, and then my youngest, he's 12 now, Joe. I was expecting him. Yeah, so at that time I was already paying about £1,000 a month in childcare for my other 2 children, because they were like 7 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night for me to be able to be out and having a career. And so how on earth was I going to add more to that? And also, I just didn't want to do it again.
I'm not surprised.
For all their school life, from going to school up until going to high school, I never took them to school or picked them up. They were taken to school by after school club, before school club, out of school club, grandma club while she was around,
Yes,
in
bless the
order that I could go
grandparents.
to work. So, yeah, from 3 months old, they were both in childcare.
So
And
that
I
wasn't
thought,
going to happen again.
I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do that. And it's amazing how when you sometimes make a decision, things just fall into place. And a friend of mine from the US, she reached out, and they were launching at the time, which is crazy because it's like a full circle, a weight loss company. And I'd seen this company in the US through social media absolutely flying. And they had this thing called the 90-day challenge, funnily enough, because we've just started a 12-week challenge. But it was a 90-day challenge, and people were losing so much weight, and it was just a very simple protein shake. And I'd reached out to her, I don't know, a couple of years or a year or so before, and said, if this ever comes to the UK, let me know. And so one day I got a message to say, hey, it's me. Do you remember we spoke about this company coming to the UK? Well, it's happening. Are you still interested in being a part of that? And I said, well, I'm 8.5 months pregnant, but yes. And in my mind, I thought to myself, if I can just make £1,000 a month so I can take a 12-month maternity leave. That's all I wanted to do. So at least then he would be 1 before he went into childcare. And then I thought to myself, if at some point I can use that time to never go back to work again, then that's what I'll do. So I got started, and that year I made 3 times more than my annual salary as a pharma rep.
Well done, you.
Yeah.
That's an achievement.
So that was 2013. Yeah, 2013. And I've never gone back to work ever since. And it's crazy because it was funny how it worked out, because I needed to lose weight, especially after having the baby, but I'd struggled since having the kids with my weight anyway. And I thought, if I can, A, lose weight, because I'm going to be held accountable to doing so by doing this.
True, yeah.
Number 2, I can then help other people who are struggling like me with this and make an income by doing so and not have any childcare. So if I could just make the same amount of money I did in my job, I was better off because I'm not paying £1,000 plus for childcare. So that's how it started out. And then in 2015, I was so burnt out. The years of being a corporate mum, trying to keep up with the expectations of work, putting work before everything else, just so that you could be as responsible and reliable and as maybe primed for a promotion and all these other things.
All that stuff, yeah.
You know, you're with 21-year-olds that have no responsibilities, but you're expected to show up as a mum with 2 kids on your own like none of that exists. And that is the work environment. They're not interested for you to say, could you make it a little bit fairer so that my kids don't have to be without their mum or their time or their out of school activities so that I can have a job. The employer doesn't want to know about that. They want, I mean, they say they do. There's a lip service to say that they do, but really they don't. They want people who can just show up no matter what. So I'd been doing that for years and burning the candle at both ends. So 2015, I was completely burnt out. Physically, mentally, my body was broken, my brain was broken. I probably had some perimenopausal symptoms thrown in there, chronic fatigue. I had terribly high cortisol levels. And my body just said, no, you're not doing this anymore. And I was a workaholic by nature. Nobody had to tell me what to do. I always got up and did whatever I had to do for this whole on my own accord. That's just who I was. But I'd also been in survival mode for 15, 12, 13, 14 years raising these kids.
I'm amazed you sustained it for that long, to be honest.
Right. So, yeah, and I was completely burnt out. I couldn't sleep. I was awake till 2 or 3 o'clock easily every morning. And I knew if I was asleep by 3, I'd be okay in the morning. And when I say okay in the morning, I mean that I could physically get out of bed, because I would hit snooze 10 times. I couldn't get my head off the pillow. I had complete brain fog, hangover feeling every morning. If I went to put a postcode, like coming here today, you sent me the postcode, and I read that postcode in my house, and I got in the car and I put it in my phone to set off. And there's probably like 10 or 15 minutes between us doing that, and no problem. But back then, if I wanted to put a postcode from my phone into the car sat-nav, for example, it would take me every letter going back from the message. That's how bad my brain and fog and memory was. If I did any work, for 20 minutes, I'd need a nap afterwards. That's how mentally
I'm going to say
broken.
That's not productive, is it? No. Apart from healthy, it's just
brain
not productive.
Fog, no focus, no mental clarity, just motivation gone. And a friend of mine in America, in fact, it was the same business partner actually that I'd met over the years. She was having similar problems because we were similar types of people in terms of workaholics. And there was a lot of stress involved in that company at that time. And she said to me, I've been trying this herbal supplement that I think you've got to give a go. And I just rolled my eyes. You know, I'd been in the health and wellness industry, which included nutrients and supplements. I'd been in medical nutrition, and pretty much every supplement I'd ever tried, I'd never really got a physical, something that I thought, oh yeah, that works. So that's something. How many do you try? Yeah, that you think, actually, I feel a lot different or I feel a lot better. So I kind of eye rolled. And then she sent me this video, and it was an ABC investigative report which is a program in the US that I lived over there for quite a long time. So I understand it, but a lot of people here don't. It would be similar to Panorama or 60 Minutes or something like that, where they're trying to dish the dirt or uncover something. And she sent me this ABC Primetime Investigative report on this product that she was telling me she'd been taking, and it had helped her loads. And I looked at it, and what it was basically saying is that when you're young, your body produces these enzymes. They're basically antioxidants. Most people do not know antioxidants are made by your body. Mm-hmm. Most people think an antioxidant is something you eat or something you take, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I'd spent 20 plus years in the beauty industry. And I remember at 17, my head of beauty giving a lecture and saying you're aging from the age of 21. And that stuck in my head my entire life. Because I thought, wow, that is so early. So from the age of 21, you're aging. And so I'd been telling my clients this all my life. I'd never asked anybody why. I never asked anybody what happened to make that happen, ever. And then I watched this video all these years later, and it explains how when you get to about 21, 25, when you're fully developed as a human being, that your survival gene switch, it starts to go into decline. And with that, a lot of the enzymes and functions that your body used to do start, and that's the onset of the aging process. So one of the things that goes into decline is your body's antioxidants, and they're what keep your cells healthy, functioning, free from damage, reproducing the blueprint of the cell, being intact and reproducing itself well. And basically what this video showed me, this scientist, that they went into this laboratory and showed that when you take this particular product, it switches back on your survival gene and you start pumping out all these things that you used to when you were in your early 20s. And the oxidation that's caused by them not being there, which is the instigator behind just about any form of degenerative health issue you're going to have, which is oxidative stress and inflammation, is it reduced oxidative stress by doing so by up to 40% in 30 days and back to what you would expect to see in a young child, basically.
Which is absolutely mind-blowing.
So I watched that video. I was like, well, this is not a herbal supplement, dear. I was like, this is something more than that. And then at the time, there was 18 peer-reviewed published clinical studies housed on the National Library of Medicine. And as a pharma rep, I'd been working with a particular product for 7 years, and we had 3 studies. And this was for like young babies. It was like a very volatile group of people. There was 3 studies. And these 3 studies, I had to recycle for 7 years to the same GPs over and over and consultants over and over again to convince them to use our product. Because what people don't understand is they research something. When it's research, it's done. It's proven. But there was 18 peer-reviewed published studies for this supplement. And I was like, well, that's just crazy, because basically what that's showing me is I can take this to anybody and they can't really deny what it does because it's proven. Today, there's 32.
So it's ongoing research.
But then there was 18. Now there's 32 peer-reviewed published studies on the National Library of Medicine. And so that was enough for me, as somebody who'd worked in the industry long enough, knew that the aging was happening, but now you're telling me how and why, and I can reverse it. Internally, like physically anti-aging in your body. So that means not just look better, that means feel better. And that's what I needed at that moment in time. Function and feel. That's what I needed. I didn't need to look better. I needed to feel better so I could survive and get, on with life. So I said, you've got to send me some of this because it sounds amazing. Anyway, I did. And to cut a very long story short, that stuff saved me. That it's the NRF2 activator. Within a very short period of time, my brain fog lifted. I started sleeping at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I was getting up in the morning before my alarm actually went off.
Yay.
And I went from not being able to walk the dog more than half a mile to doing 7K 4 times a week. So it wasn't available in Europe. So I said, look, we have to bring this here. And I started to give it to a few friends, or one friend of mine. And by the way, I should put a very clear disclaimer into this, that under no circumstance do we claim to treat, cure, or prevent or mitigate any type of disease with our products. We have to say that because legally we're required to. But a friend of mine, she was under investigation for MS. And I started to research MS, and I found a drug that when I started to dig into the research behind the drug, it was an NRF2 activator. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. She was numb in the mornings in her extremities, hands and feet. And so I told her about this. She said, well, you've got to get me some. So we did, and within 2 weeks, the numbness had gone. Now, it turns out she had neuropathy. It wasn't MS. She was under examination of what was going on at the time. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then another friend, backache for 10 years, gone. And it's because it's not doing one thing, because it's turning on something that your body actually, probably hundreds. I mean, we know of 6 to 10 of these things that it turns on now. We only knew of 3, but now we've just found out more. But there's about 300 different enzymes that the NRF2 gene overrides in your body.
So there's a long way to go yet as to the potential.
So, yeah. And so it affects multiple different things in multiple different ways. But if you basically think of anything to do with inflammation, it's basically probably going to have some benefit towards. and it's oxidative stress, which is what it reduces, is the instigator behind just about any form of degenerative health issue.
Yeah, it is.
So that's how I got started doing what I do. And then the company started developing new activators. So then we looked at mitochondrial function, which is like the battery which causes the energy in every cell of your body. And then that came out, and then the big one was the collagen. Well, actually,
is that activated as well, the collagen?
Yeah, so I mean, collagen is a multi-billion-dollar industry. There's hundreds of collagens. You can buy all types of different cost value level, what's the word I'm looking for? There's different costs, basically. So there's very low cost ones, there's extremely expensive ones. And what a lot of people just hear collagen and see collagen and think I need to take that. But the type of collagen you take, how the collagen's processed, how you consume it, all of these things play a massive role. So when they said they were launching collagen, because our company, our entire ethos is around finding genes, as we said earlier, that we can activate to get your body to do something it could be doing better, to either make you look or feel better, basically. And then we're also down-regulating things that cause the aging process as well. So with the company coming from that perspective, when they looked at collagen, what they did is they created a collagen that is, first of all, liquid, highly hydrolyzed marine collagen, which is the best that you can take in terms of absorbency and it actually getting in your body and doing something. But then what they did, instead of just taking collagen, which is what everybody's doing, they added two other elements. And one is we were shown to upregulate the gene that produces collagen. So you're producing new collagen. And the other thing that it's doing is down-regulating the gene that causes your collagen to age. Wonderful. So whereas most people are just taking collagen, yes, we're taking really great quality collagen, but we're activating the body to produce new collagen. And some companies say when they take their collagen, your body produces new collagen, but we actually know through science that when a specific ingredient formula that we've added to it upregulates the fibroblast, the COL1 gene, which increase the cells that make collagen to make more, but also downregulate the one that ages them.
So that's the theme, isn't it, with this company? It's not
gene activation.
Gene activation. And downregulation of bad genes, if you like.
Well, it's activating, whether upregulating or downregulating, we're activating genes to promote your body to do what it's also to do. So the slogan is take it to make it. So a lot of supplements and things that you do, you take them to take them.
And that's the end of the story, isn't it?
So with us, what we do is we take things in order your body to make something that it should already have or make more of or be more efficient with. So they did that. And that was a game changer completely, because the before and after results that people were getting were just insane. Not just in the way people's appearance was before and after documented, but like cellulite, for example. I didn't realize this until recently, that cellulite is there's the gene I said that degregates your collagen, that we downregulate. That gene is now, they say, responsible for cellulite.
How interesting.
So, and that is responsible to your certain hormone setup in your body, will make that gene break down your collagen. And that's why you get cellulite. And so what we've seen is physical results in people's legs, their bumpiness, in skin texture completely change. I mean, if one woman, her before and after is completely unbelievable, but it's real. Because the result in her before and after of her legs in a few weeks was just astounding. She even said to her husband, "Why did you never tell me I looked like that before?"
Oh, bless. I mean, physically that's amazing, but psychologically for her as well. That is a complete mind-body transformation, isn't it?
So then when they said that they'd created this GLP-1 activator, I was so fired up because I was like a size 6 before I ever had children. I was tiny. And after having children, something changed in my biology.
You're not alone there.
Yeah. And that was never the same again. So I've always struggled with weight. And so when they said they were and then also, so I fell off the horse. I was telling you why I got into the horses, actually, wasn't I? So that's how I got back into the horses, was my business. And that's the journey I went through. So what happened, I'll come back to when they launched the GLP-1. What happened was I was making more money than I'd ever made in a job. It had allowed me to never have to go to work. I could work my business from home in my own hours, work the hours that I chose. And then all of a sudden, 2 years into doing that, I sat on the edge of my bed one day and I was like, you're still a workaholic, Lisa. I had more time, I had more money, but because I'd been on the survival rat race for so many years, now I had time and money, I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do with it. Because I'd never had that time or option before. And most people, if you ask them if you could choose an ideal day in your life, or what would you do every day if you could choose, most people have no idea because they've never had. In fact, lockdown was probably the only time people had a little idea of what they'd do with their day if they ever got chance. And so I sat on my bed and I was like, so what are you going to do with this time? And I was really into horses when I was young. In a big way, I probably smelt like a horse most of my childhood. My brother would never let his daughter have or take horse riding lessons because he said I smelt like a horse when I was little, and it was horrendous. Because I literally spent all day there, as many hours as I could, I would be there. And I always said once I got older, because I left and I worked abroad, and so you can't take a horse with you, can you? But I always said once I had the time and the money, I'd get back into the horses. And so I sat on the bed that day and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go horse riding. I've always said as soon as I have the time and the money, I'm gonna do it. But it was that far removed. I never thought about it. It was so weird. Anyway, I did. I went for a couple of lessons and I picked it up very quickly, a bit like riding a bike, but not quite. And then within a couple of months, I'd bought a horse. And I went from being a stressed out corporate mum. This was after I'd moved to this new company and found my life again through NRF2 activation and had the energy to do so. But I'd found I'm actually doing now what I thought I would be doing when I was a young girl.
Yay, that's wonderful.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
I just realised
wonderful.
that very recently, how I spend my days today, because I've created a business model that allows me time freedom and a little bit of financial ability, or a lot sometimes, that I'm actually looking back, living my life today, how I expected when I was a young girl I was going to. So whereas before, get up, get the kids ready, shoving toast in them in the back of the car on the way to nursery, getting them there, running off to my first appointment, speeding down the M62 every night, praying not to have an accident so I could get there before childcare closed. That was my existence. So now I get up, Joe goes to school. I see him off to school, make his breakfast. Sometimes he makes his own. And then I'll go to the yard. I've bought a youngster recently that I'm training to be a dressage horse. So I go to the yard. I spend an hour, 2 hours, do whatever I've got to do up there, go home, do a bit of admin, go back, sort the horse out in the evening, might work a couple of hours in there. That's how I thought I spend most of my time with horses when I was a little kid. And I'd completely forgotten that until recently. And I thought, wow, here you go again. Because manifestation is a crazy thing. And I never see the manifestation coming. I always see it after the fact, always. It's like the joining the dots backwards again.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so that is a childhood manifestation. It's making me teary-eyed just thinking about it. It is.
Well, good. So it should, because it's massive, isn't it?
Yeah. So you think I was manifesting that when I was a young kid and it's only just come to light now. It's crazy.
It's just glorious.
Yeah. So that's how I ended up here and with the horses. So when they said they were launching GLP-1, I fell off my other horse about 5 years ago and I gained a ton of weight. I'd gone up to like 18 stone. And I'd found it incredibly difficult to get rid of. So I started intermittent fasting. I reduced carbs, sugar out my diet, and I'd lost about 3 stone doing it that way. And I bought this young horse and I knew that I was too heavy for her. So I spent quite a lot of money buying her. She wasn't a cheap horse. She was the horse that I wanted for the future. And I bought her knowing I was probably 4 stone too heavy for her. So, but I knew that if I did it, that I had to lose the weight.
Yes.
It was like throwing the gauntlet down. That's it. I've got to do it. So there's no way I'm not going to sit on this horse. And so I went off. I started intermittent fasting. And I lost weight, but my gosh, my body is not designed to lose weight. It's designed to hold on to every single pound possible for as long as possible in case there's a starvation situation somewhere down the line. That's how my body responds to weight. So when I heard they were launching this GLP-1, I was so excited because I'd got that desperate. The horse was ready to ride. I bought her as a youngster. So out of desperation to get on this horse, I did start taking one of these synthetic weight loss injections. I went to see a friend. He'd lost half his body weight. I was like, what on earth have you been doing? And he told me. This was before we knew any controversy to the risks around them. And so I started taking them. But it made me feel depressed. I had no motivation. I didn't have a lot of the side effects of other people until one day somebody says it causes POTS, and I'd noticed that I'd started having little dizzy spells. And you can't have dizzy spells if you ride a horse. I mean, you'll relate to that if we've just been talking about vertigo.
Absolutely.
And so I was like, oh gosh, like that's alarming. That's really serious. And so I was desperate to get off them. And then I found out the company was launching this GLP-1 activator. I was like, this is amazing. It couldn't have come at a better time.
Serendipity.
But I was skeptical. And I'll be honest, I'm never just 100% sold in. I'm like, you've got to prove to me that this does what it says it does. I can never get behind anything that I'm not passionate about, that I can't really go and tell people with enthusiasm that they should do this too. So anyway, I saw it come out in the US. I started shipping it from the US at great expense because I wanted to get off this stuff as soon as possible. And you're supposed to like take this alongside it to transfer smoothly. But what they don't tell you about these antagonists is these synthetic weight loss injections. The word antagonist means to block or suppress.
It does.
Agonist means to increase. So NRF2 is a NRF2 agonist because it increases the production of that in your body. But antagonists, that definition of that is to block or to reduce the process of. And these antagonists, what they do is they block your natural GLP-1 receptor sites. So it kind of overrides your own GLP-1 system to put this synthetic one in your body. So I learned this. And then I thought, well, what's the point of taking this alongside that if that's blocking these receptors? And this one, I need to build new receptors. And so I just went cold turkey and completely stopped taking it and started on this. And I have to say, this is only my own personal experience that I'm sharing. I had a very smooth transition. Now, I wasn't taking them for medical reasons because some people are for diabetes and other things.
That's
but
true, yeah.
For me, it was just for weight loss. And I had a very smooth transition. So my appetite suppression stayed. I had a couple of weeks where I felt a little bit hungry, but I didn't feel much notice. I thought I was going to be starving. But no, I transitioned really simply over onto it. and I gained, I think, 6 pounds. I started in the December properly. I gained 6 pounds. I was absolutely mortified because I'm like, I've worked so hard, I can't afford for this to happen. And I was a little bit doubtful. And then over Christmas, I just said, I'm just going to enjoy my Christmas. So I ate more. I was on the synthetic option. I was eating probably 800 to 1,000 calories a day and still not losing a lot of weight. I would eat the same thing every day. Like, that's how hard I was trying to lose weight.
That's hardcore.
I'd eat steak and cauliflower rice or cauliflower cheese like every day because I knew that was like the calories. I didn't have to think about anything. And so over Christmas, I just thought, I'm just going to eat what I want. So I ate and I drank and I did all the things that I wouldn't normally do. And then absolutely dreaded it. I got on the scales in January to think, right, let's reset. We're on this GLP-1 system now. And I'd lost 9 pounds.
Yay.
So I'd lost the 6 that I'd put on plus 3 more. And I couldn't believe it. And that has been one of the biggest things that I found about this whole GLP-1 journey that I've been on, and now watching other people go on, is one of my really good friends. I won't say her name, but she's a very good friend of mine, and I've known her for years. And we've been business partners actually in the company that I work with together. So she has always had a very difficult relationship with food. Whenever she'd eat, it would make her feel unwell or not good about herself. And so she had a terrible relationship with food. And she's a tiny little thing. But she'd gained a little bit of midriff. She's in her 50s. And she started taking it. And she just kept messaging me saying, Lisa, I feel so good. I can't believe, like, I'm eating lamb chops and I'm doing all this stuff and I'm eating way more food than I would ever eat before. But I don't feel uncomfortable. My body doesn't feel uncomfortable and I don't care.
Wonderful.
And I said, well, are you kidding me? She said, this is the only thing I've done. She said, and she sent me a before and after picture, and her muffin top on the top of her, like, workout pants had completely gone. And I was like, oh my goodness. So then I've seen, like, Charlene, for example, she's lost 49 pounds now.
She's remarkable,
Her
isn't she?
life, oh my gosh. And so people are saying they're sleeping better, their energy's better, their relationship with food has changed. So I was an emotional eater. I would celebrate with food, commiserate with food. Like, it was weird. And I probably had some type of food addiction, I would probably say as well, despite not wanting to. And what I found is it has completely changed my relationship with food. So if I had a burger, I'd never have bread. This is how bad I used to think about food. And I know so many people, and the guilt of eating the burger and having the fries on the side, you just think about it over and over and regret what you've done because you know, like, you've got to lose this weight. And that is a mindset so many people can relate to. I know that they can.
Yeah, I would agree
and
with
that has changed for me. I found that I don't care. Like, I'll eat way more. I don't have the guilt. And I found that I don't eat as much. I'm more in control of what I eat. So when I want to have something, I don't care. I just have it. And so with that, what we find is the weight loss is slow. You're not going to lose 10 pounds. Some people have in your first week or something like that, because what you're actually losing is fat. You're not losing muscle. So if you're losing weight pretty quickly, you probably are losing muscle mass. But you're losing fat. So what we're really seeing is some people are not changing much on the scales, but when they've took a before and after picture, their body looks completely different and they've lost a lot of inches. So it's a slower weight loss system, but the changes in people's bodies has been really, really interesting.
And when you lose fat around your abdomen, that's the fat that's involved with insulin resistance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And diabetes, and a lot of
and
comorbidities come from that.
And what we've seen in the study with it is 27% up to 27% visceral fat lost. So that is all that stuff that sits in your midsection that's hard to get rid of through the menopause. You know, they've coined it in America, the muffin top melter, because people's midsections are just like really reducing in inches. So yeah, it's number one, it's safe. It's food. If you can eat food, you can pretty much take this. There's no contraindications, health risks. There's no side effects. So there's none of the vomiting or diarrhea or anything like that. The worst you're going to have is a bit of bloating as you get used to the resistant starch, and that's about it. But so it's safe. There are multiple other health benefits rather than risk that people are having. So the increased energy, their brain fog's lifting, their sleep is massively improved, which you need sleep to lose weight as well and reduce your cortisol. And so yeah, I'm really excited about that and where we take it. And I will say, we need people like me, like you, that have a general interest in either losing weight, whether it be personal or professional, or people that are just passionate about health for themselves, either personal or professional basis, because we need to get this out there. We need to show people that there's a healthier option with multiple health benefits. And we need people in every city, town, village, in the whole of the UK, Ireland, the Netherlands, Germany, Austria, Belgium, France, Italy, Spain, to come and help us launch the product, because it's an absolute game changer.
I mean, it's just a no-brainer, isn't it? I mean, for me, coming from a science background, something that's backed with science is hugely important to me, which is why
There's so
I
many
jumped
supplements out there that have nothing.
Exactly. I mean, that's one of the major reasons I jumped in with this company as well.
Yeah.
And that was before the GLP-1 launch. That was based on the NRF2 product.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, the science is huge for me, because that makes it believable and it makes it credible.
Yeah.
And everything else that's coming from the evidence is just adding to that.
All of our products actually deliver results, whether you can see or feel them. And that is one of the criteria of there's a few criteria, but one of them is, number one, they have to be scientifically proven. We've got to know before we tell someone this is what it's going to do, we've got to prove in the blood or in whatever that is actually happening in the body. And the other one is they've got to produce results that you can see or feel. And so for me, also coming from a pharma background where research is the only thing you can use to talk to people, that was the only reason I came here, was because one, the product worked, but two, it was completely backed by science and we had all of the information. So yeah. And also what I've found now, especially on social media, a lot of people jumping on the GLP-1 bandwagon off the back of the popularity of these injections. And I've reached out to all of them when I see them, because they'll say, oh, GLP-1. And I message or email them, every single one of them, and say, can you send me your research? Because I want to understand the other products that are out there, what they do. Not one single company yet has been able to send me something that can clinically prove that GLP-1 is produced. So there's one that was a patch. I'm not going to say names. And it said GLP-1 and it was a patch you can stick on. And I messaged them like, how does your patch work? And they sent me, and do you have any research or a study that I can look at? And they sent me a generic study for how transdermal patches work.
But not the product.
And I said, that's fine. I understand how a transdermal patch works. But what I want to know is, how is it a GLP-1? What's happening with GLP-1? And they're just crickets. They never got back to me. And I've messaged them about 4 or 5 times to ask them.
So we're in the right place, basically, then, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
Well, there's huge demand. Look, we already talked about people are willing to sacrifice their health to lose weight, basically. And people are that, I wouldn't say the word desperate, but they're that determined to do something to lose the weight. So there's a massive need, a massive demand. And then couple that with an option that works, but it's also really good and additional health benefits. Yeah. It's a great place to be. And timing wise, it's a great place.
It is. I mean, so I think that to come back to this at a later date, when all this audience that are hopefully now aware, enlightened, and are going to get in touch with us. So come back to this in a few months' time. Let's bring some case studies. Let's have some people sitting here with us that are just delighted and want to tell the stories. That's the way I see this going.
So we have I've done this for a while. So we did it with NRF2. And that was, we created a Facebook group, because there's just no way I could tell anybody of all the stories I've seen over the last 10 years of how it's impacted people's health. So we put everyone in the group, people who are interested in finding out more, people who have used the product and want to share their results. And there's 60,000 plus people in that group now. And you can just go in and type a particular interest that you might have. And you can see all the other people, like sleep or pain or whatever, and you'll see all the other people that have benefited. Like, I haven't had a migraine in 9 years since the day I started taking it. I can't say that it's done that, but it's a coincidence. And then, so what we've done is we've done the same thing with the GLP-1. We've created this little community, which is climbing. Every day I'm adding 10, 15, 20, 50 people some days into this group. And we're just starting a 12-week challenge. So that 12-week challenge will end July. And what we've asked people to do to make it a little bit of fun and to keep it away from weight and more to inches and real weight loss, changing of your body shape, is we've asked everybody to select an item of clothing that they haven't been able to fit in for a while, or they do, but it's like, doesn't look good or it's uncomfortable. And we've had everybody either post a picture or a video of them with this particular item of clothing. And then the idea is at the end of the 12 weeks, you're going to get into it.
Wonderful. I like that a lot. So I think to close off today, that's a perfect way to end it. And let's revisit it in a few months' time and see where we are.
We'll have lots of stories that we can share. So that'll be good. Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa. It's been
You're
a joy.
very welcome.